So recently, a new leaked list of Funko Pops and other Funko products have been shown off throughout social media. So of course, I'm DK Wrestler, and today's video here on the channel is talking about those said leaks and getting my reaction as terms to them, whether I'm going to be excited for them or not. So let's get right to it. All right, so there is like 4 pages worth of these leaks, and I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to go into description about all of them, but I'm going to do as best as I can to talk about the majority of these at least. So the first list we got some new Pokemon Pops, including Blaziken and Teddy Ursa, a Marvel 12-day countdown calendar, and a new set of Blackpink Pops. Of course, we have been seeing quite a bit of Blackpink as of late. It's becoming like the new, I'm gonna call it like TLC or whatever, where it's just some random artists and then they make a bunch of pops for them. As terms to Pokemon Pops, I do recognize a couple of the different names like Teddy Ursa and Blaziken, but I'm more of a Gen 1 kind of guy, so it's not really up my alley, so to speak. Next part of this list, we have a new Cinnamon Roll for Sanrio, an Elf on the Shelf Pop, and then holiday Marvel Pops, including Groot, Deadpool, Spider-Man, and then Star Wars holiday Pops of Grogu, and then another version of Grogu, I don't know what it means by Pram, but then an advent calendar of Pixar, and it says W1, wondering if that means Wave 1 and that there's going to be a different one. But a Pixar advent calendar would be very interesting, especially, obviously, it's got to have Toy Story involved, so I may get it, I may not get it. And then, of course, we do get the holiday Marvel Pops every single year, and Star Wars, I guess, so it's not really surprising, but an Elf on a Shelf Funko Pop is pretty interesting, considering that if you actually don't have an elf on a shelf and you want to partake in that kind of like Christmas tradition but don't actually have the elf on the shelf, I guess the Funko Pop of it would be a pretty interesting aspect to get into your collection so that you can use it for that sake also. Then we have a holiday Stitch with lights, a GB Harry Potter Pops of Harry Potter, Hermione and Ron, Dumbledore and Hogwarts, a Charlie Brown Christmas, it looks like, with the acronym of ACBC, of Snoopy and Woodstock, and Charlie Brown with Tree, and then we got Professor Hinkle with HP, FTS, I don't know what that means. But of course, once again, we got more holiday pops coming down the line with the Stitch one, but the acronym with GB as terms to Harry Potter, I believe is more than likely going to be Gingerbread Harry Potter Pops, which I'm sure a lot of us aren't really a fan of the Gingerbread Pops as it is, but I'm not surprised they're going down this road. But it's very interesting to see that it is listed of a Gingerbread Pop town of Dumbledore with Hogwarts, so that'd be pretty interesting to see an actual gingerbread house be transformed into the town version. And then the last part of this first page, we got GBS The Haunted Mask, a Charlie Brown Christmas of Snoopy and Doghouse, FTSS2 Frosty and Karen, Rudolph with him flying, BTVS Spike, and then Jujutsu Kaisen and Mandalorian Mystery Minis. So now I guess I know what FTS means by reading Frosty and Karen. I assume that means Frosty the Snowman. So cool that Frosty gets his own wave of pops. A lot of people were talking about on social media of the one that says GBS The Haunted Mask, meaning that it's Goosebumps being transformed into Funko Pop form, which is absolutely awesome. I remember the Goosebumps books as a kid, especially, I can't remember what it's like, Monster Blood or something. Next up, we have listed as DS, which assuming that is Demon Slayer. We got Garfield with Mug and Garfield with Pookie, and then BM and R Poison Ivy, and then BM Forever the Riddler MT. So obviously DS, like I mentioned, should mean Demon Slayer, in which we've seen a wave of Demon Slayer pops being shown off at New York Toy Fair late last year. So it's going to be those ones, if I'm not mistaken. A metallic version of the Riddler, which is what MT would mean, in case you wanted to know about the smaller acronyms beside that. MT would be like metallic, and then FL is flock. Speaking of more Batman, Batman Returns with Catwoman and the Riddler. We got SWT TIE Fighter with Vader, Pink Panther, an anime version of Scott Pilgrim, and then Bitty Pop singles with Lord of the Rings and a Godzilla 75th Anniversary Mystery Mini set. So I find the highlight out of that set would be the new Scott Pilgrim Pops, considering we have not gotten Scott Pilgrim versus the World Pops in quite a while, and this is based off of, I believe, the newly released Netflix version of Scott Pilgrim, where it is more of a cartoony anime style, so it's cool to kind of like dabble into that version with a license that Funko has been known for such a long time. Then we go to some animation which looks like it's Dragon Ball, and then a huge list of Godzilla 70th Anniversary Pops, and then a new Michael Jordan pop coming down the pipeline. And I kind of figured that first section was Dragon Ball because one of the names was Piccolo, which I know is a Dragon Ball character, and then a huge wave of Godzilla 70th makes sense with the release of the Godzilla movie that's coming out, and there's that new wave of pops. I wish they made the Toon Squad Michael Jordan, especially speaking of new things, the new Space Jam Funko NFTs coming out. Why didn't they make that the royalty instead of Freddy Funko as a Toon Squad player? But nonetheless, I still want a Toon Squad Michael Jordan before really any of these other ones. Then we got some Star Wars, Arcane, never really heard of that, Shrek mystery minis, and then Pocket Pops for Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and Star Wars. So the one that really intrigues me off the bat is, of course, the Shrek mystery minis. And that's mainly because we had already talked about in the last video of the leaked list that there's going to be a new wave of Shrek pops coming out, but it was unknown at this time of what those pops were. But a mystery mini set would be very intriguing, obviously having probably a couple versions of Shrek, got Puss in Boots and Donkey, maybe have characters that haven't been made like the Gingerbread Man and Lord Farquaad. So this could be a very interesting set, and I'd be all over these mystery minis realistically. Next up, we have How the Grinch Stole Christmas with Grinch with Max as a 2-pack, and then Grinch with Bag, a Marvel covers of Captain America. And then I believe it's Christmas Carol because it's Ghosts of Christmas Past, Present, Yet to Come, Jacob Marley, and Scrooge. Pretty interesting that now they are doing Christmas Carol pops for the original, and then the new Captain America covers is probably hype going towards the Captain America movie that was originally slated for this year. It's now being released for 2025 instead, but they probably were already in production at this point before that decision was made. Then we got a new set of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer pops with Bumble and Rudolph, Shrek pops with Donkey, Puss in Boots, and Shrek with Snake, and then Holiday Grogu and Mandalorian, and then Beavis and Butthead with Cornholio. Alright, so far this is the most intriguing set of this leaked list. Finding out exactly some of the pops involved in this Shrek set with Donkey, Puss in Boots, and a new version of Shrek, which I believe was the original 3 of the OG Shrek wave, but it's just more revamped versions. So hopefully with characters like I mentioned earlier, like the Dragon and Lord Farquaad and maybe even Gingy, that maybe those will either be exclusives or they will be Comic-Con exclusives. So it's going to be really interesting this year to see these Shrek pops come out, since I feel like so far that's one of the more highly anticipated sets. For me personally, as a big fan of Beavis and Butthead, not only having a new one, but more specifically, "I'm Cornholio, I need TB for my bunghole." Like, that is absolutely, I'm gonna have to get this pop. Such a funny moment in Beavis and Butthead. Then we got ourselves some Bitty Pop singles for Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, a comic covers of Darth Vader, Michael Jackson, Billie Jean, a new Snoop Dogg, Wednesday, and then listed here is Medusa and Zeus, and then a new Batman Joker pop. So the Bitty Pop singles I'm not going to go into because I believe there are more listed as we go through this video, but the comic covers is pretty cool. A Billie Jean Michael Jackson pop is also really cool because, of course, Billie Jean, one of Michael Jackson's most iconic songs, so to take that music video and take the Michael Jackson involved would be really awesome, and I think it would definitely sell well. But then I think you guys are wondering, what the heck is this Medusa and the Zeus pop? I don't think it's necessarily Medusa and Zeus themselves, like the Greek mythology characters. Most of the time when they have these random names, it's a code name for a Comic-Con exclusive pop. Now, I don't exactly remember where this was posted from, like if this is a GameStop system or this is a Target system, but more than likely it is a Comic-Con like code name for certain exclusive pops coming down the pipeline, most likely for either, I don't know which is going to end up being the first Comic-Con this year, either WonderCon or the already confirmed C2E2, but one of those two, that's probably what it is. It's Comic-Con exclusives that are listed, but obviously Funko themselves have not told the retailers what pops they are. And then we got ourselves some Bitty Pops. Harry Potter, it looks like, with HP, Nightmare Before Christmas, Lord of the Rings, Simpsons Quickie Mart, and then Jack at Home, and then we got have BJ2 Pop 1 and 2. So the BJ Pop, before you just start randomly writing BJ and then something inappropriate ends up going on your Google search, it's probably mentioning Beetlejuice 2, because that movie's coming out this year, and so they're hyping up, and I believe, and I'll mention it now, is that there is a 2-pack listed on this leaked list also. So there is a few pops already listed here, but of course they're keeping it a little bit of a secret, not knowing what pops they are. But I think a really huge disappointment when reading this was the Bitty Pop Town Quickie Mart, because originally reading this, I thought it was just a regular Pop Town of the Quickie Mart from The Simpsons, and then maybe your character is probably Apu. But unfortunately, it is not that. It is the Bitty Pop Town, which originally we have the Star Wars one, and I believe a Harry Potter one that were shown off at London Toy Fair, where it's basically a display case for your Bitty Pops, but they are in the shape of said building. So first of all, this also confirms that if there's a Simpsons Bitty Pop Town, that means there are going to be Simpsons Bitty Pops coming down the pipeline, which I have not heard about these. Yeah, nothing really to talk about here except that I'm disappointed that it's not an actual Pop Town of the Quickie Mart and that it's only a Bitty Pop Town. And then next, BJ 2-pack, like I mentioned, Universal Monsters, Dracula and Frankenstein, 1959 narrator, and then a couple of Smurfs Pops, Grouchy Smurf and Smurfette with Chase. So once again, another acronym code name, CH, meaning that there's going to be a Chase involved. Then continuing on with Bitty Pops, Batman 85th with a Two-Face, Rudolph with Bumble, Clarice, Rudolph, and Santa, and then Bitty Pop singles for The Mandalorian, and then a new set of Ted Lasso with Roy Kent on bike, and then Ted Lasso himself. So I'm going to assume here that the reason they wrote down for the certain Bitty Pops, like the specific names, is that that's what's gonna kick off with the set. I don't think it's a complete Bitty Pop, like 4-pack of just 4 different versions of those characters. I think it's just simply that's what's gonna kick off as. And then with the single Bitty Pops, I hate the concept of them because obviously it is in like a mystery bag form and you're finding them singularly. I wish with those ones they would just do the mystery ones that you don't have. And then last but not least, we have ourselves some Bleach Pops, which I'm not gonna bother trying to pronounce the names, a countdown calendar dual-sided of The Nightmare Before Christmas, a Greninja Pop for Pokemon, and then 2 Pops for Spider-Man 2, Miles Morales, and Peter Parker's suit. So the Bleach Pops, not surprised, anime sells pretty well, and the dual-sided calendar is very intriguing to me, and it makes sense for Nightmare Before Christmas because I would assume that one side is going to be Halloween related, whether it is a full maybe 24 days or it's just 13 like a lot of the Halloween ones, and then the other side is the 24 days for the Christmas one, because obviously with Nightmare Before Christmas it celebrates both Halloween and Christmas, so it's a very unique idea. And then we got Greninja, a very popular non-Gen 1 Pokemon being transformed into the pop form. Pretty sweet. Anyways, guys, that's gonna be the end of today's video. If you enjoyed today's video on me talking about these potential leaks for Funko Pops and Bitty Pops coming down the pipeline this year, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know your favorites that were listed here, and I hope to see you guys in the next video. 1, 2, 3, I'm out of here.